Today we're going to start a new project, and that is the Zentangle design project. So what is a Zentangle? A Zentangle is an abstract drawing created by using repetitive patterns. It's usually structured within a certain shape. Typical Zentangles are structured inside a square or a circle. Drawing a Zentangle is entertaining, relaxing, and a great way to express yourself creatively. So here's some examples of some traditional Zentangles. Like I said, most of them are kind of formed in a square or a circle. So a string. This is some Zentangle vocabulary for you. A string is generally a random line drawn in pencil, which creates an area within which you draw your tangles. So on the right of the screen here, you see the string with one of the patterns or the tangles drawn in. Here's some examples of strings. Some of them can be very random. You could also make them a little bit more constructed or kind of thought out if you want. A tangle in its verb form means to draw a tangle. So you can tangle. You can tangle a tangle, and in that process create Zentangle art. In its noun form, the word is used as a replacement for pattern. So when you see pattern or when you see tangle, I'm probably talking about the same thing, okay, a pattern or a tangle. So here's two examples of a tangle or a pattern. You can see these are like step-by-step instructions that you can find all over the internet. Here's some examples of some different patterns. You can see they vary a ton. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of patterns online that you can kind of look at for inspiration, but I'm really hoping that you guys come up with some of your own tangles for this project. So let's see, Zentangle process. You can see from this slide that you start with the frame or the outside shape, then you add the strings, then you add the tangles, and then all the way to the right, you can see that the artist went over their lines with pen, and they maybe sometimes even add a little value shading with pencil. So what is your goal? Your goal is to create a Zentangle drawing within a creative frame. You're going to use a variety of tangles or patterns that emphasize the elements and principles of design. So we're going to reference back to those elements and principles that we've been studying all year. So you're going to use the elements and principles of design. You're going to use texture, color, space, form, shape, line, and value. You're going to use movement, contrast, unity, balance, rhythm, emphasis, and pattern. So your project requirements. You need to include at least 8 patterns or designs or tangles in your overall project. Your Zentangle should be created within a recognizable outline. Patterns should be creative, varied, and unique. So you can see on the right, I have a leaf here. That is a recognizable shape, and the patterns are created within that recognizable shape. For craftsmanship, evidence of hard work and quality of skill is apparent. Zentangle is neatly crafted, lines are well drawn and even. So here's some examples. You can see a picture, you can see Boo here. I'm going to tell you as we kind of get through to the rubric today that I'm going to have you avoid cartoon characters and logos because I think you can be a lot more creative with something you come up with yourself. This is a great octopus. This is a great example. A peace sign, a flamingo. This one didn't come from the internet at all. The artist came up with this design on his own, so it's a lot more creative that way. This artist chose to incorporate some color, and that is 100% okay for this project. So the first step, you are going to create your outline. So this should be a recognizable object. Try to avoid logos or characters if possible. So think of simple shapes. Well, not really, I mean, yes, simple shapes, but try to make it at least a little complex so it's interesting. Household objects, kind of, I stay away from hearts, stars, rainbows, lightning bolts, that kind of stuff. Try to make it interesting, but try to make it simple enough so your patterns can fit in. So I chose a house for my example. Then you're going to place your strings. Remember, the strings are the lines that go inside that determine where your patterns are going to go. Your strings can be random, or they can help to define recognizable shapes in your overall design. So in my house, I did a heart in the middle, and I did some random strings all over the outside of my, kind of the inside of the outside of my house there. Um, Remember, you're going to need at least 8 patterns. So you need at least 8 openings to put patterns in. The more openings you have to put patterns, the more interesting your design gets. But remember to make sure that you make your workload manageable. Don't make 15,000 spaces to put patterns in if you don't have a lot of time to get this done. Plan your patterns. You're going to use the provided worksheet to plan your tangles or your patterns. Remember to use the elements and principles to create a variety of patterns. So here you can see I've started this worksheet. I have a paper copy. I was able to print mine out at home and begin filling in the patterns. Not every one of you is going to have access to a printer right now, and that is okay. You can just take a blank piece of paper and you can draw a grid out onto your blank piece of paper, and you can plan right in that grid that you draw. You don't need a special printed version to complete this part of the activity. So you can see that I have used the elements and principles of design. I would like you to come up with at least one example of using each of the elements and principles if possible. Remember, you're going to need 8 different patterns and designs in your final project. You can repeat the patterns if needed in your project, but you need at least 8 unique patterns and designs. So the next step is to place your patterns. Consider how your patterns can help create areas of different values in your drawing. If there's a spot in your design that you want to be dark, you would use a very dense pattern, like maybe this one right here. I don't know if you can even see that, this one right here. That would be a very dark or a dense pattern. If there's light areas, use one that doesn't have a lot of black. Space your patterns out so similar patterns aren't near each other. You don't want 2 sections of your drawing to have the same pattern in it right next to each other. That kind of defeats the purpose of the strings. So here's one that I have started. So you can see I have a couple different areas filled in. I would just continue to place my patterns in the different areas that the strings divided. I'm probably going to pick a pattern that uses emphasis for the center of that heart because that's really the focal point of my drawing. Next, you're going to outline your design. You're going to use Sharpie or a black pen to outline your design. Fine point Sharpie will work best for your lines, and a regular Sharpie can be used to fill in your patterns. If worse comes to worse, a black Crayola marker is going to be okay, a black ballpoint pen. And if you really don't have anything at home, just let me know and we can skip the black outline part. But it looks a lot nicer with the black outline. So here you can see I've started to outline mine and erase the pencil lines. So it just looks a lot better. It kind of pops. You can add some thicker and thinner lines to help emphasize line weight. So ideally, you'll have a black outline on your design. When you're all finished, you're going to complete a rubric and turn it in. You're going to fill out the digital rubric and attach your artwork. Remember, you have to actually complete the rubric. I'm making a copy for each of you in Google Classroom. So you'll have to complete your rubric and turn that in with you. So the rubric will look like this. And there will be I will talk separately about how to fill out the rubric. So that is the Zentangle project. If you guys have questions, you can let me know through Google Classroom. You could email me. Just let me know what kind of questions you have and look in Google Classroom for your first steps. Thank you guys.